Hey guys, this is Dr. Samir Islam. I want to thank you for joining me today. So tonight we're going to start a series on intermittent fasting. I'm really excited to talk about this because it's a topic that I think is really helpful for your gut, but also I'm sure it's a topic that you've heard a lot about, whether it's in the news, in the media, social media, and things like that. So I want to kind of go over what intermittent fasting is, what the risks are, the benefits, which patients should do it, and how you should maybe implement intermittent fasting in your life if you choose to do that. Now, I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for years. I think it's helped me out in a lot of different conditions, whether it's gut issues, feeling better, maintaining weight loss, just a lot of good data is coming out from fasting in some way. And so one of the more effective ways to do it is with intermittent fasting. So in tonight's video, I want to talk about exactly what's the hype. What is intermittent fasting? What do you need to know about that? In these next couple of videos, we'll talk about some of the options or some of the topics under intermittent fasting, including what the heck is intermittent fasting, which we'll talk about today. Next week, we'll talk about how does intermittent fasting work. Next, we'll talk about why I personally do intermittent fasting and why I think you should do this as well, or at least maybe try to implement this. Now, before I'll talk about some of the issues or problems that can occur with intermittent fasting, and then lastly, we'll finish up on some of the most common questions that people have about intermittent fasting. But tonight, let's talk about what is intermittent fasting, what the heck is it, what do we mean when we say that we're doing intermittent fasting. So when we talk about intermittent fasting, this basically involves making a conscious decision to skip a certain meal on purpose. So it means you're actually skipping a meal in your normal progression of meals. So instead of having 3 meals per day or 5 meals per day, you'll limit that to either 1 or 2 meals per day, and you'll fast the rest of the time, meaning you won't take any calories throughout the other time. And there are a lot of different ways to do intermittent fasting. Whenever you do intermittent fasting, though, you consume your calories only during a specific window of the day. So you're only eating during certain hours, whether it's from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., depending on what type of intermittent fasting that you do. You only consume the calories only during that window of period, and all the other hours in the day, you don't consume any calories. So you don't have anything to eat, you don't have any calories that have any water that are there, and you try to not supplement by eating during those particular times. And also during this time, you also choose not to eat food during that particular window. And so if you go through a 24-hour day, if you fast for only 3 or 4 hours, you choose to not eat for the rest of the 21 to 20 hours, depending on how long you're doing intermittent fasting. Now, there are different protocols that people have. There's the 16 to 8 hour protocol, and there's the 24-hour protocol. I personally do the 16 to 8 hour protocol. I find this a little bit easier for me to deal with. There are certain times, so when I do decide to go in the 24-hour intermittent fasting protocol, the decision to choose one or the other would depend on you. I have some people who swear by the 24-hour protocol, which is fine. I personally don't find that to be as effective. I like the 16-8-hour protocol, A, because I like to eat. Number 2, also like to make sure I have a social life. It's sometimes kind of hard to have a social life if you do a 24-hour fast. But if you can eat only during those 8 hours, you can still have a social life, enjoy dinners, have dinner with your friends, family, things like that. So I personally do the 16-8 protocol. And the way that works, when you have this 16-8 protocol, you fast for 16 hours and you only eat during 8 hours during the time. So 8 hours you're eating, and then the rest of the 16 hours, including sleeping, you're not eating as well. So for example, if you do the 8-hour protocol, you may eat from noon to 8 p.m. Essentially just skipping breakfast. Since you're having a normal lunch, having a normal dinner, so you're skipping one particular meal for that. The other option you can do too is also eating only from 12 to 8, where you're also skipping breakfast as well, like I mentioned before. Now, I know the slide's kind of small, but this is an example of a intermittent fasting 16 to 8 protocol that which you may want to implement to consider if this is an option for you. And this is a protocol that I particularly follow. And so what I do is that I go 16 hours without eating, and I find that 8-hour window in which I consume the calories that I want to consume for that particular day. So for example, if you start eating at 7 a.m., you want to stop at 3 p.m. and not eat until the next morning at 7 a.m. If you start eating at 11 a.m., you'll stop at 7 p.m. and then fast from 7 p.m. up until the following 11 a.m. If you start eating at 2 p.m., then you stop eating at 10 p.m. and you fast the rest of the time. And that's actually the protocol that I follow. I actually start eating around 2 or 3 o'clock, and I usually end around 9 or 10, depending on how I'm feeling and what that day is. Or if you want to start eating at 6 p.m., you can continue that up until 2 a.m. and then fast the rest of the time. It doesn't matter when you start or stop, as long as you have that 8 to 16-hour protocol. You eat for those 8 hours, and you skip or you fast for the rest of the 16. So you're basically removing one particular meal. And by removing that meal, you're able to minimize calories and actually feel a lot better. And I've noticed a change in my particular health as well. Now there's the second protocol, which is a 24-hour protocol. This is where you basically skip 2 meals per day. You just have 1 meal per day, and you fast for the rest of the 24 hours. And so, for example, let's say that you eat dinner at 8 p.m., you finish that up, you fast for the next 24 hours until the following 8 p.m., and that's when you have your dinner at that point in time, and you break your fast. And so eat at 8 p.m., don't consume any calories for the following day until the next 8 p.m. Certainly you can drink water. There's some other things you can do during the intermittent fasting, which I'll talk about, but you're essentially fasting for those 24 hours. And so you're basically skipping 2 meals as opposed to skipping 1 meal. And some people do great with this, and like I mentioned before, I will occasionally do a 24-hour fast, especially on the weekends. And I know that for me, the weekends end up being a lot harder for me to maintain a good diet because of the fact that you're home, you're eating more, you're having some food just lying around. So I may do a 24-hour fast on the weekends myself, but I kind of just go gauge by my body. I don't do it often, but maybe a time when I decide to do it as well. So intermittent fasting for me is a very effective option, and there's 2 main protocols that we have. We have the 16 to 8-hour protocol or the 24-hour protocol. These are just general terms. Now people can change this any way you want. I have some people who do a 20 to 4-hour protocol where they eat for 4 hours and then fast for the 20 hours. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have some sort of protocol where you're missing 1 meal at least or minimizing calories from what you had before, this is the process of how intermittent fasting works. So in the next couple of weeks, once again, we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. Then next week, I'll talk about how does intermittent fasting work? What is the science behind it? Does it help out with some of the issues going on with respect to autoimmune diseases, gut issues, or any of the problems that you may be wondering that you may be having? I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you like these YouTube videos, I encourage you to like my YouTube page, give me a thumbs up, and I would encourage you to subscribe to my page as well. Thanks and take care.